Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Why it's better not to combine a drink and a golf course? Find out in our first story. Subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Throw a beer at me? Enjoy your DUI. Okay, to give some backstory to this, when I was younger, I used to work as a starter/ranger for a golf course. The starter job is to make sure people's tee times were kept and the flow of people was steady. The ranger was making sure people are playing swiftly and also enforcing course rules. I sit in a shack near the clubhouse until I get a complaint most of the time. So I get some complaints on our blue course that there's some people drinking and generally being loud and obnoxious during the course of play. So I get in the ranger's golf cart and eventually come upon these guys. I happen to notice three things. 1, they're just leaving empty beer cans on the ground. 2, these guys opted for golf carts for their playthrough. And 3, they had a cooler on the course. 2 course rule violations and 1 state rule violation. So I come to this group and it has 3 people in it. I ask them kindly, would you please refrain from drinking on the course? It's against our rules. One of the people starts laughing at me and takes one of their half-full cans of beer and throws it at me, and they scurry off in their cart. Now for the revenge. They were already on the 7th hole of blue, and I did remember letting one of those guys go on with a red to blue 18 rotation. We have 27 holes with 9 holes each, red, blue, gold courses. So I decide to tail back and follow them out to see what car they were in when they packed their gear up. I do this and get the make and model and license plate number of the car. Here's the kicker. Across the street from our course is a county sheriff, and I happen to have his home phone number. He happens to golf here a lot, and he gave me his number in case of issues. Well, this is an issue. I call him and relay what I saw and tell him the info I got. Thankfully, these A-hats went into the clubhouse to eat lunch before leaving, so it gave plenty of time for the sheriff to wait. So they get done eating, and I decide to go wait near the entrance to watch the fun go down. Lo and behold, the sheriff was there in his driveway, ready to pounce, and here comes our A-hats driving out. They go left, which is the exact direction of the sheriff, and boom, flashing lights, and they thankfully pull over. The dude that threw the can at me was the driver, so I just start watching some more, and the sheriff starts administering the tests he does for sobriety. He falls on one, and like a dumb butt, he consents to the blow test. I don't know what he blew, but it was strong enough that he was turned around and arrested. Then he saw me in my golf cart, waving at him with a giant smart butt grin on my face. Don't drink and drive, and don't F with people who enforce rules on a golf course. And our next story. Landlords get $1,800 blackmail by threatening to torpedo mortgage closing, winds up costing them half of their rental properties. I rented the bottom floor of a 3-floor house for 3 years, paid the rent on time, and other than a few times something needed repaired, we pretty much left each other alone. Got a dog and a fiancé during that time that both started living there, documented everything through emails. They were very reasonable about the increases, no problems. Cut to about 5 months before the end of the 3rd year of the lease. We're getting married in about 6 months and decide it would make more financial sense to buy a starter house. We actually have a conversation with them to let them know we were thinking about not renewing the lease and why. An important note. The Landlords were a husband and wife realty team that dabbled equally in rental ownership and being real estate agents, with the seal of the National Association of Realtors prominently displayed on every page on their website. They didn't seem especially bothered by it, but were very interested in being our real estate agents. We said we'd consider it. We wind up going with a personal family friend and finding a house that was what we were looking for, in a price range we can afford. Put in an offer, some back and forth, and they accept, and we start the closing process. So we give 60 days notice to our landlords as required by the lease, down to the letter of the contract. They completely lose it. I'll skip over several weeks of drama and threats to the ultimate throwdown. They sue me, as they hadn't actually ever added my fiancé to the lease, important point for later, for damages to the apartment before we'd even moved out. Why? Because as they gloated several times, as real estate agents, they knew we couldn't close on a mortgage with an active lawsuit against me, even if it was completely frivolous, and gleefully pointed out they could easily drag out the appeals for years. After talking to a lawyer who very kindly gave us a consultation at a much reduced rate, thanks to us being referred to him from the local bar association, essentially confirmed what they were doing was super unethical, but not strictly illegal, and would be very easy for them to follow through with, even if the lawsuit was completely frivolous. In the end, we paid them $1,800 in blackmail, and I had to sign a confidentiality agreement, but we were able to close on the house. Now to the revenge part. Some important notes. I'm an engineer who routinely works with municipal agencies, including the code enforcement departments, so I'm pretty familiar with codes and how the system works. The county law where I lived required all rental properties be registered with the local township for tax purposes and issued a certificate of occupancy, which requires a code inspection before it can be rented out. As most homes in the area are 50 to 100 years old, landlords routinely ignore these regulations, as the code enforcement officers are usually too busy with buildings that are actively falling down to enforce them. So after a few months of planning, I put my plan into action. Looking at the property records in that county, conveniently all online for free, I was able to compile a list of 15 rental properties they owned in the county, except the one we lived in, due to the NDA. A quick weekend drive to take a few pictures of each one, and a letter was compiled. A concerned citizen, aka my fiancé, had looked at a rental property but was concerned that cracks in the basement foundation, good luck finding a house that age without them, might be structural, unlikely but possible, and wanted to make sure they'd been inspected for safety before the certificate of occupancy had been issued. Extremely unlikely that one had ever been applied for, given our landlords. A copy of the letter for each property went to the code enforcement officer, tax official, and township council for each township for every property they owned. Condensing for space, she received several phone calls over the next few months from most of the township's officials. She stuck to the same script of being a potential renter and wanting to make sure the houses were inspected. Not one of the ones she received a call back about had been registered or inspected, and since all of this was now documented in their books, they were going to enforce the regulations. I don't have the actual numbers, but I imagine costs of upgrading one 100-year-old house to the current rental code, much less 15, must be in the tens of thousands, not even considering the fees and penalties for not paying the correct, higher taxes for years. Surprisingly, we never heard anything from our former landlords, though I like to think after that mountain of government hurt landed on them, they got a lawyer smart enough to tell them to stop poking the angry bear. I just ran a search in the property records for them again, and it seems like they're now down to 8 rental properties in the county. It looks like a majority were sold within a year of us moving out, several at a loss. So assuming we were the cause, it looks like $1,800 in blackmail cost them over $30,000. Just in the sale of those properties at a loss, and almost half their rental income, not even considering the price of getting their other properties up to code. The icing on the cake? I CC'd my fiancé on a lengthy email chain from their business emails in which they conducted themselves in a completely unprofessional manner and admitted to some extremely unethical, though not illegal practices, such as admitting the lawsuit was completely frivolous, but it didn't matter because I'd pay up if I ever wanted to get a mortgage. They were stupid enough to reply back to all. So a copy of that entire email exchange was forwarded by my fiancé to the ethics officer and president of the local chapter of the National Association of Realtors they were members of, as well as the national ethics officer, using the links to each organization they so helpfully had on their website. Got follow-ups from both asking if she wanted to file an official complaint. However, she explained that due to the confidentiality agreement, we didn't think we could file an official complaint without getting into shaky legal ground, but we wanted them to know what kind of people were using their organization's name and reputation. They said it was definitely something they would look into, but we never heard anything back. When I went to their website tonight, all of the National Association of Realtors references had been removed, and according to the membership list on the website, they are no longer members of the local chapter. I like to think we had a hand in that. Good work, my man. But I feel disappointed they don't know that it was all because of you. And our next story. You can pick it up at the police station. No, not that police station. About 5 years ago, I saw someone lose their smartphone in real time. I was driving behind her and saw it fly off the top of her car on a busy one-lane highway. It was a little dangerous, but I pulled over, waited for a break in traffic, and darted out to grab the phone. It was miraculously unharmed. Her background pic showed a 20-ish redhead and a boyfriend who looked like a crappier version of Faye's Banks. I kept driving around doing my errands until her phone rang about 30 minutes later. I told her where the phone had flown off the roof, how I'd retrieved it, and mentioned how she must have put it up there while getting gas or something. Her response, okay, could you bring it to me here in her town 40 minutes away, please? I work at pizza joint. That's nowhere near me. I'm in my town. You can pick it up here. I'll meet you at Dunkin' Donuts. I can't drive all the way to your town. I don't know your town. Let's meet halfway at Popular Restaurant. That's not even remotely halfway. Popular Restaurant is still in your town. Won't you just pick it up later? I don't have time for this. And she puts her boyfriend on the phone. Dude, what's your effing problem? Give her phone back already. This went on for a few minutes, boyfriend getting tougher and tougher. I have zero tolerance for crappy behavior, so I hung up on them and shut off the phone. I was going to visit my grandfather the next day, so I kept the phone on me until then. When I got to Granddad's town, 2 hours away, I turned the phone on, called the girl's father, and told him everything. He was very apologetic, and I'm guessing it wasn't his first rodeo. I told him due to her rudeness and boyfriend's thinly veiled threats, the phone could now be picked up at the local police station in my granddad's hometown. Dad's response? Looks like she'll have a 3-hour drive both ways this weekend. Sorry again. Could have offered to put it back where you found it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.